I did it, friends and foes! My name is Lulu Soul, and I finished MerMay! Woo! Yay! Cheering kids in the background! Woo! This is to date the second month-long art challenge where I have completed all the days, and in today's video I'm going to walk you through my MerMay experience, as well as give you the #1 tip that got me through both of my art challenge wins. Like most artists I know, I first picked up a crayon at the tender age of I can't remember because I was so young. And like many artists I know, at some point I put my pencil down for several years. Sure, I'd do a doodle every now and then, but nothing so substantial as to call myself an artist. A title I still struggle with to this day, but that's a topic for a different ramble. What finally brought me back into the world of, I love art, so I'ma keep making it, was my first ever month-long art challenge, Inktober, all the way back in 2016. And no, I did not finish that first year, but the attempt reset my art journey, and 2 years later, I actually did complete all 31 days of Inktober. After this success, I began discovering all of the other month-long art challenges that exist. Did you know that if there is a month and you can think of a quirky name to tie into it, that it's probably already an art challenge? Like right now, in the writing of this script, we are in the beginning of June. I attempted every single month-long art challenge I could find because I was hooked, and I managed to complete none of them. I grew a lot as an artist while participating in these art challenges, and even when I don't complete one, I find myself getting hyped for a new one, and I've used that love and excitement to fuel my desire to continue arting. Yes, it's a verb, shut up. With these challenges comes nearly limitless inspirational ideas. They are so much fun, and I love seeing what I make versus what other people make, which is where the whole also posting on social media idea I think originally came from to begin with. And now, nearly a decade after my first success, I have once again completed a month-long art challenge! This is to say, I have way more experience not completing one of these challenges than I do actually completing them, but I've done it twice now, so that means I have 2 nickels. And this time I did the whole shebang. Not only did I art every day for 31 days, I also made 31 social media posts to capture my journey and egg myself on to continue, accountability or whatever. I plan on going into how each day went, what worked, what didn't work, and how I felt through the whole process of it. But before I do, I made a promise where I would share with you my #1 fancy tip on how I won MerMay so that you too could possibly have 2 nickels or less or more. I'm not going to make you sit through the entire video before getting there, so let's start off with this tip. Are you ready? It's truly mind-blowing. You might not be able to handle this. It's a monumental piece of advice. You sure you're ready? You think you can handle it? Okay? Well, here goes. Ignore the prompt list. Wait, hear me out. I know. Actually, Lulu, the whole point of these challenges is to follow the prompt list for all 31 days. You're wrong! The point of these challenges, or at least the idea behind their popularization back with Inktober, is to get yourself into the habit of arting, still a verb, every day. The prompts are there to do just that, prompt you to do the art every day. They are meant to create inspiration and cultivate motivation for the challenge. You can't think of what to create? No problem. Follow this handy-dandy list of ideas. But what I've noticed in my past of consistently not finishing Inktober, MerMay, June, etc., was that every time at some point the prompt list inevitably got in my way of making the art. I would come across a prompt list and I'd get stuck. What does this word even mean? Why is it there to begin with? Will I be able to make something unique out of it? What if what I make is boring? I hate this word. This is a stupid word. It's a stupid prompt. It was usually not a stupid prompt. I'd push through, and then the next word would feel the very same way. Even during the challenges, where I'd try to zombie together multiple different prompt lists, the same thing would eventually happen. Plus, bouncing around all of those different lists would become overwhelming and distracting. I tried telling myself that this too was part of the challenge. Could I really call myself an artist if I can't get the word plunk and turn it into something amazing? Sometimes prompts are hard and you have to push through them, like work. And once it became a type of work, every prompt started to feel like that giant wall that was becoming consistently more difficult to break through. So I'll just skip a day, and then the next day, and then the next, until eventually I've stopped before the month was ever over. So what was different for the first Inktober I finished, and then later this MerMay? Well, the first time I created my own prompt list, so I actually liked all the words on it. Plus, I was able to mold the interpretation of that prompt to suit my own personal desires. This time, with MerMay, I had planned to follow the 2025 prompt list, and I hit that wall I mentioned super early, like day 2 early with the word cosmos. I didn't want to draw cosmos, but I am really into Epic the Musical, and who's more cosmic than the Greek god Poseidon? A lot of people, but that didn't matter, because now, from cosmos as a prompt, I had Poseidon, and off I went. Each time I got stuck on a word, I allowed myself more freedom of interpretation away from that word. If what I created ended up matching the prompt, that's great! If not, oh well! And the digivolution of this mindset turned into sometimes ignoring the list entirely because I was already excited about drawing something. Other times, I had zero motivation and legit just scribbled something vaguely Mer-like onto my tablet. Some of these scribbles turned into my favorite pieces of the entire month. Other times, they stayed as scribbles, but they were still art on canvas. And that's why my number one suggestion is ignore the prompt list, or at least don't take it too seriously. In the past, I've tried other methods. I've prepped ahead, where I would get burnt out or bored of the challenge before the month even started. I've tried following multiple lists, which, as I mentioned before, becomes super overwhelming. I've even deliberately chose to not do each day. I ended up getting distracted and ultimately forgot the challenge was even happening. None of these ended up in the success of enjoying the challenge and feeling a sense of accomplishment at the end. Now, to be clear, the attempts where I didn't finish all 31 days, they aren't fails to me because I still learned a lot and I enjoyed the process. Why else would I have continued on to do so many of these challenges? I didn't get that rush of, oh my gosh, I did it and now it's over, what do I do now? You know, that feeling of accomplishment followed by a small dip of serotonin. And now that you know the big secret of how I won MerMay, i.e. not taking the prompt list too seriously, I'd like to go a little deeper into my actual experience throughout the month. For day 1, I took the prompt list super serial and I put a great deal of thought into the first word, which was mirror. The result was cute and I didn't hate it, so I slapped the speed paint onto Insta and went on about my day. Day 2 though, as I've said before, I was already running into a block. I mean, sure, I could think of plenty of interpretations for the word cosmos, but I didn't want to draw any of them at the time. I did want to draw Poseidon though, so I did, and this time I posted the speed paint on Insta, YouTube, and TikTok along with a background song from Epic the Musical because I'm really into it right now. Insta did nothing, YouTube randomly shot up in views, turns out Epic the Musical is popular, and TikTok was my normal, 100 people saw your thing and 3 people liked it. I liked the speed paint and the song, so I continued on into day 3. And day 3 was hair, and originally I had planned on drawing Rapunzel as a mermaid because, well, a hair. Instead, I ended up drawing something completely different, someone absolutely not Rapunzel, and once again took to Epic the Musical for the score behind my speed paint, and I went along with a popular meme trend at the time. This one turned out to be quite popular with YouTube. People started commenting on the art, sometimes giving suggestions on improvement, and other times just saying they enjoyed what I made. I'm not gonna lie, y'all, this made me incredibly happy. TikTok and Insta were both fairly meh about it, but since that had been my initial expectation, I didn't pay too much attention. Day 4 and 5 were fairly uneventful. I followed the prompt ideas loosely and took an opportunity to work on drawing mermen, and this is where things started to go kinda weird with TikTok. I'm not exactly a large creator, as I've just mentioned. I'm used to my posts getting like 100 or so views, but by day 5 I realized my posts were getting like 0 views. But those same videos were performing fairly normally on YouTube, so what was going on? Turns out, TikTok had decided that my art for days 3, 4, and 5 were too spicy for the TikTok algorithm and purposely kept them away from the For You page. This turned into a trend of several posts throughout the month and didn't seem to have any consistency. Himbo Energy Poseidon? Perfectly fine. Fan art of Kiki as a mermaid on day 7? Too spicy. I could appeal these and they were fixed each time, but the damage had already been done and views of those posts remained small. Again, I'm not exactly a big creator anyway, so this didn't exactly hurt me, but it was fairly annoying all the same. The next few days went fairly well with me more or less following the prompts. Sometimes I finished the day's prompt super fast and created a few sketches for when I knew I'd need a little help getting motivated. And then on day 10, the fatigue really started to set in. I realized that I didn't really like what I had created on days 8 and 9, and even some of the previous days where I had liked what I had made. I liked them far less now that I was looking at them again. Basically, day 10 was the beginning of my first real wall. By day 16, I picked up a note card and wrote the following. Really didn't want to art today. I specifically did not want to do the prompt of beach goth. But I took an easy day yesterday and I've run out of prep, so to the iPad I went. My first sketch wasn't bad, but it wasn't giving anything either, so I rejected it and stopped trying for the prompt. I also stopped worrying as much about anatomy or making a finished product. Somehow, I ended up representing the prompt and also with a finished, more stylized piece. Today started with Dread Artist and I ended with one of my favorites so far in the entire month. On day 17, I ignored the prompt completely and ended up using a sketch from previous days. I wrote, I keep not wanting to start the art, but I am starting to like what I create again. Then on day 18, I ended up creating my favorite piece for the entire month. She was also technically the least mermaid of them all as she had legs and a tail, but I really liked the end result. By this time, I had gotten to where I was only glancing at the prompt list. If I liked the prompt, I'd use it as a starting inspiration point. If I didn't like the prompt, I'd scribble something down. It was in this way that my first mini animation was born. He was super cute, had nothing to do with the prompt, and for one of my first animation attempts, I quite like him. So then a few days later, I drew a second animation. Both are cute and let me know that I very much enjoy making little animations, but that they also take way more hours than a simple sketch turned line art to color. This entire time, I continued posting my speed paints on YouTube Shorts and TikTok. Occasionally, I would remember that Instagram exists and I would post there too, but usually it was the finished pictures as opposed to the speed paints, and so I would post them like in batches, so one day would get like 3 or 4 pictures each time. Nothing I made popped off again quite like back in day 3, but I was still getting the occasional comment here and there, and let me tell you guys, if you ever wonder, does a content creator even care about my comments? Yo, we do. Seeing someone comment on a video I made brings all kinds of sunshine to my day. I created my second favorite piece on day 23. The prompt was Stitch, and again, I took the prompt idea loosely and used it as inspiration. I will say that this is probably the cutest zombie I've ever drawn. And then on day 25, I noticed a lot of the comments that I was getting were art advice style ones, and I wrote the following on a note card to myself. Received art advice again. These are not my favorite comments. I struggle to accept critique in general, so receiving it unasked for from a complete stranger can be super rough. However, this is someone who saw my art and cared enough to post a comment regarding it. Their advice may be helpful, it may be off base, but either way, whether I take that advice, it's ultimately up to me, myself, and I. I mentioned earlier that I love receiving comments, and that's true. On the 25th, I felt discouraged about the art criticism I was receiving, and that is also true. But I do want to point out that even these were very respectful, like YouTube comment section, you guys pop off. And it was important at this point to remind myself that putting anything I create on the internet opens up doors for people to share their thoughts on those creations. Ultimately though, knowing that people took the time out of their day to comment on my speed paints were a good thing to me, and I'm happy for them. So if you're one of those viewers, art advice or nah, thank you so much for your comments. They really do mean a lot to me. After the 25th, I started struggling pretty hard again. I could remember that I needed to draw something, but it would be like well into the evening and I would just pick up my pencil and just put something, anything, onto my iPad. Day 26 was literally just a series of sketches that I added color to and posted. Day 29, TikTok decided that a mermaid child holding a dandelion was too spicy, and I once again seriously considered just not posting on TikTok anymore. On day 30, I made another animation, and probably my favorite one so far. I moved from Procreate Dreams to ToonSquid for it, and boy howdy, let me tell you, the difference in those programs is amazing! I love this little fish boy and will likely try remaking my first 2 animations in Toon Squid going forward because I want to see the differences. And then, in what felt like the longest blink of an eye ever, I was at day 31, the last day of MerMay. So I doodled an art that turned into an ink and color and I posted it, and I did it. I finished MerMay. I was shocked, surprised, awed, and maybe a little depressed. So many times through the month, I felt like not doing it anymore and I had to force myself to draw something, anything. But then when I was finally standing at day 31, I realized I didn't have anything to fully drive myself forward anymore. Looking back on all the things I arted, some I loved way less, I felt a mixture of accomplishment and sadness. Now, as I've mentioned several times before, every month can be an art challenge month. Kai June exists, so does Magical Girl July and many others. If I wanted, I could have just continued on, and honestly, thanks to making YouTube content, I've actually been drawing more or less every day anyway. Actually, thanks to my YouTube content, I was drawing for many times each day because I was trying to do both MerMay and work on my last video. So yeah, I totally could have jumped straight into another month-long art challenge, but I know myself and I know what will happen if I burn out. Looks back on years of not art at all. Instead, I'm taking June to redesign my OCs and prep for my second favorite social media art challenge, which is Art Fight! I'm not going to be posting every single day, but as I redesign a character, I'll be tossing the process onto the YouTube shorts. So if you see speed paints that look like character sheets throughout this month, or if I've taken way too long to make this video, you may have already seen all of these things. Well, that's me prepping my OCs for the event. I'm not going to take June very seriously at all. I'm going to try to do it as relaxed as possible because I want to come back rearing to go for the next challenge that I decide to face. And what about you, friends and foes? Do you enjoy a good old motivational challenge? Like, these aren't always just art-based ones. I also like the walking ones where you walk X amount of steps each day for a month, and no, I have never finished any of those, but you know, one day. Like, have you participated in anything like this? If you have, or if you want to, let me know in the comments below. And that, friends and foes, is really all I've got to say for this video. So, until next time, I've been Lulu Soul, and I'm gonna go art. Okay, bye!